Hey there, fellow streakers. Hopefully you have had a wonderful week. I've got a topic that I want to talk with you about today. This is Jeff Downs. I'm without my co-host, Jamie, but she will be with us on another podcast soon. Today I want to talk to you about something, though, that she and I were talking about as we were out on one of our streaking walks. And it came about as part of a conversation as we were discussing and analyzing what things we were good at in life and what things we weren't so good. And a particular phrase came up that we had quite the conversation about. So that's what I know. I haven't shared with you what that phrase is, but I'm going to as we talk today. So welcome to the Streaking Show. I'm Jeff Downs. Let's start streaking. What is streaking and why should you do it?
Streaking is how you set up personal winning streaks. Look at who you want to be and what you need to do to become that person. This is streaking.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Jamie.
And we are streakers. Through 30 years of marriage and 7 children, we have learned the power of consecutive consistency or streaking.
To start streaking is simple. You just follow these 3 laws. Make it laughably simple, keep a record, and join the streaking community.
Streaking is your hidden superpower. With it, you will consistently progress and grow in whatever area of life you want.
In this podcast, Jeff and I will share all the fun, exciting, serious, solemn, wonderful parts of family, spiritual, professional, and personal life, and how streaking powers it all.
So join us in the conversation, join the movement, and start streaking today. So as we were out on our walk, and I don't remember if it's a walk or a run, because the streak is to run or walk at least 1 mile 6 days a week. We don't do Sundays. We take Sunday off. So we're Monday through Saturday. We walk or run at least 1 mile. And that was the OG streak. In fact, that particular streak, just to give you a little bit of an update, is currently at... I need to log back into my account so that I can see my particular streak. But I know it's over 8... Well, it's probably over 8 years old, or maybe not. So, because I know, well, in March, I think it might be coming up on 8 years, maybe even 9 years, as far as one run or walk, at least 1 mile every day. So as I get to this, hold on just a second. Let's see here. Why am I having a hard time logging in here? Welcome back. I've got my username right. Let me see if I can get there. Okay, there I got it. All right, so as I look at my streaks under my physical folder, run or walk at least 1 mile 6 days every week is currently at 466 weeks. So 466 divided by 52, coming up on 9 years. We started that in 2015. And have been going ever since. And one of the things that we talk about quite often on our walk, or that we visit quite often, is would we have ever come up with the streaking book and everything that's in it had we not had this run-walk streak? And the answer to that, unequivocally, is no. Many of the concepts that we flushed out were while we were running or walking, because we would talk about what it was that was working and why it was working and how we can illustrate that in the streaking book and what it is that will help to communicate the point to those who are not familiar with streaking. With the assistance of Page 2 and our editor, Kendra, we were able to get a book out there that I think is pretty good. I think it can be better. I think that there is a second edition in the works, where we will highlight and talk about more of the experiences that streakers have and what they have learned through those experiences. Now, with all that being said, no, I have not forgotten what it was that I was going to talk with you about. It was in this walk that we were talking about things that we do well and things that we don't do so well. And one of the things that we brought up, I think it was something about finance or money management or something like that. And the phrase that came up, and I'll just get this phrase for you, was, I've never been good at that. Is this a phrase that you've used at some point in your life? I've never been good at that. If so, I would say to you that that is a false phrase. And the reason why I would say it was a false phrase is because one of my guiding tenets in life is that the only limits in life are the limits that you place on yourself. You may want to put a limit or two on yourself simply for the reason that it keeps you in the path that you want to go. Don't hear me as saying limits are bad. What I'm saying is that deliberately, intentionally, the limiting place of life are the limits you put on yourself. And what I would say is, rather than limiting yourself unintentionally, limit yourself intentionally. And those limits are like the kite string of the kite. It keeps the kite in the air. Otherwise, that kite falls, does not do well, floats all over the place, and eventually falls back to earth. Whereas with the kite string, what it does is it limits the kite, but it gives the kite what it needs to be able to work with the wind to rise higher into the air, to fly, to ultimately get, hopefully, where you want it to go. Every metaphor at some point breaks down, or simile. Every simile at some point breaks down. But I think you get the meaning of what I'm going after here. So this phrase, I've never been good at that, is not the phrase that is true. What is true, and what I would say that each one of us, in recognizing this, will benefit, is I have never worked hard enough to be good at that. The primary difference, notice, is that I am taking responsibility for that particular action, attitude, behavior, skill. I am taking deliberate, intentional responsibility for that particular thing. I've never worked hard enough to be good at that. If you want to be good at anything in life, it is going to require practice. It is going to require you to go about being uncomfortable because you're right at the beginning of whatever the learning journey is. And when you're at the beginning, it's going to be uncomfortable. And what's going to help you pass that uncomfortability is the process of a streak. When you set a streak to do something every single day, it will get you over the hump of being uncomfortable. That's the work. That's the difficulty. That's the effort that is required. And when you put in the effort, that means that you are doing the activity consistently, consecutively, in order to get to the place of mastery. Look at any individual who's been successful at any walk of life, wherever it is. They started out uncomfortable. One of my good friends, Craig Christensen, talks about the craft curve and how any point in time when you start something new, you're at the beginning of the craft or strength curve. And as you build your strength in one or two particular areas, then what happens is you start to be more comfortable. Another friend of mine, Whitney Johnson, she looks at it as the S curve of learning. And when you're in the launch phase, it is difficult. There's hard work that's ahead of you, and it's uncomfortable, and it's something that you're going to have to work through. How do you work through that? With a streak. The reason why a streak is laughably simple, the reason why it's something that makes that you use laughably simple is so that you can get past, or you can use uncomfortability in your favor. The laughably simple portion of a streak, the activity that you do, is what you do to get the hard work done. Just this morning, Jamie and I were on another run, and we were talking about how streaking has helped us do so many things that we thought we would never be able to do. As we were talking about it, we were saying how laughably small has been something that's been a real boon and a blessing for me, because that laughably small makes it possible. However, we said on the reverse side of that if you do something laughably small only once, it really doesn't count. It doesn't get you where you want to go. Whereas the streak on the laughably small does, because I did it yesterday, I'm doing it today, and I know I'm going to do it tomorrow. I've been writing, as I mentioned at the beginning, the second draft It's a manuscript right now of the streaking book. And when you're in the draft phase or in the manuscript phase, what I'm doing is capturing a whole bunch of thoughts and different ideas that I've had, and I'm putting them together in a very loose order. Of late, some of those thoughts have been around the whole idea of your ego. So when you look at ego and what ego is, it's, if we were to, go to the definition in the New Oxford American Dictionary, ego is a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance, a boost to my ego. The part of the mind that meditates between the conscious and the unconscious and is responsible for reality testing and a sense of personal identity, compared with id and superego. That's the psychoanalysis. Philosophy, a conscious thinking subject. Ego. Oh, okay. As you look at ego, though, a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance, I'm important, your ego can take a blow from something that you don't accomplish. If you don't accomplish something laughably simple, your ego can take a blow. I was working with this concept of ego, and I just want to share with you a little bit about this manuscript as I've been working with it. Let me read just a little bit here of what I've written. Can it really be that simple? Can doing a simple thing really make a difference? Check your ego at the door when you are streaking. Your ego will talk you out of many laughably simple activities that are done consistently. Let's see here. Your ego will talk you out of many laughable simple activities that done consistently will change your life. When you do something laughably simple, you have a rejection response. You fight your own ego, which is a difficult fight to win. When you win against your ego, you feel better. When you lose, ego beats on you even further. How do you win against your ego? Feed it with something small. When you feed your ego with something it can't refuse to eat, it works in your favor. You have and then in line with this, again, this is all just thoughts that I have going together. You have another problem with your ego. It mocks small activities. And the reason why we mock small activities is because we really don't believe that they'll make a difference. I mean, if I do a small activity once or twice, it really isn't going to make a difference. I mean, not only do I believe it, I know that that's the case. But a small activity done consistently for months and years has a massive impact in your life. That's why we go to the whole streaking philosophy and methodology. So as you look at the limits in life that you have to ask yourself the question, am I limiting myself because I say I've never been good at that thing? Or are you limiting yourself because you deliberately and intentionally choose to limit yourself? And if you want to go after something that you haven't done before, it's going to be uncomfortable, it's going to be difficult, it's going to be something that you don't want to do, which is why you set a streak. And then what you do is change the phrase, change the whole attitude from I've never been good at that thing to I've never worked hard enough, or I'll even put it a different way. I've never been consistent or consecutive enough to build a strength in that thing. And whatever that thing is, put a blank there. If you have the desire to become whatever, then what you do is the laughably simple activity every single day. As you think on this, hopefully it makes a lot of sense. I'd love to hear some of your comments, thoughts, and feelings about it, because I've been pondering on it, and as I get continually into the book and the second manuscript of the streaking book, and thinking about what it is that I can use to persuade people that this actually works. This is one of those areas that I go, and I'd love to hear what you think and what has persuaded you to have this actually work. I'm Jeff Downs. I've enjoyed talking with you today. If you'd like to learn more about streaking, you can buy the book at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, or anywhere books are sold. You can download the Streaking app. Streaking app's going to get a major upgrade. Again, we keep on improving it. It's coming up in a couple of weeks where there'll be a whole bunch of things. I'll put together a couple of videos on that so you can see what it is that's happening with the Streaking app. So many good things. We've got thousands and thousands of users we're headed toward tens of thousands of users. We're going to get to hundreds of thousands of users so that we can all be streaking together, building each other together. You know, one other thing that I've been talking a lot about, or thinking a lot about, I guess talking a lot about isn't quite the right phrase. I've been thinking and also writing a lot about the whole aspect of having learning stick and what makes that possible. Maybe I'll cover off a little bit on that in our next podcast, where we talk about what you really do in order to make learning or skills or capabilities stick in your life. And there's a few things. Obviously, streaking is part of that. There's a couple of other things that go along with it. Maybe we'll talk about that next time. I think that'll be a fun one. Well, thank you again. I'm Jeff Downs. Hopefully my co-host will be with me next time, Miss Jamie. Until we talk again, keep streaking.